Here, as we indicated to you in the morning, we had earlier engagements, separate engagements with the headquarters of the two political parties, both NDC and NPP, took some concerns. Subsequent to that, we had a meeting with the IGP to address some of the concerns that we know had been raised. And then subsequently, we also had a meeting with the chairman of the Electoral Commission, also to seek to address what in our estimation will help us to have a peaceful election in Akwatia, contrary to what we saw at Ablekuma. The two parties earlier on were represented, but there were some issues of concern that needed to be resolved. And in the spirit of mutual dialogue and mutual respect, the two parties agreed that we should suspend the meeting. As it is now, our assumption is that because tomorrow is the election day, probably there's so much work that they are doing. So we are still around, hoping to engage. Probably if it requires that we still engage them in a separate meetings, we will do so. Our intention and our objective here, within the context of the mandate that created us, and that is to facilitate peace and to develop mechanism to ensure that we have sustainable peace in the country, is in keeping with that mandate that we want to remain and explore avenues to really have meetings, separate meetings, still with the members or the representatives of the two political parties, have an election that is devoid of violence, and we will not see a repeat of what we saw during the Ablekuma elections. So briefly, that is the briefing that we will give you for now. Probably as we are with you, if tomorrow there is any new development, still we will meet you and give you some update.